Wicked for Good is the follow-up / continuation to the 2024 movie Wicked. This one serving once again as part of an adaptation to the play Wicked, and this movie, event-wise, taking place, I believe, after the intermission of the play, so essentially covering the second half of it. After refusing to join forces with the Wizard of Oz, Elphaba has been labeled the Wicked Witch of the West. Now she's seen as a terror to Oz. She's seen as public enemy number one. She's continuing to, save the animals of Oz, set them free, set them on their own path away from the wizard. Glinda, on the other hand, has basically been recruited by the Wizard of Oz to be the new face for the public, to be the new good witch, if you will, to be seen as a symbol of hope in these dark times, which puts Elphaba and Glinda in two very difficult positions, both in terms of what they want to accomplish and with the friendship that they have built together. The first Wicked was one of the bigger surprises for me. I didn't really see a scenario where I would really end up liking that movie. I actually really ended up liking that movie. I thought it was great. As far as musicals go, it's one of the best I've ever seen. And all the people who I know that are fans of the play and understand where the direction this movie was going to go had me very excited to see what part 2 would give us. So I went into this movie with a lot of excitement, a lot of intrigue, and really excited to see how this whole story would wrap up, namely between the two leads, and what we would see, if anything, that would lead them to becoming the characters we knew them from in The Wizard of Oz. So I'll start with that right there. The two leads, once again, Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande. For as strange as their interviews have been in promoting these movies, they absolutely kill it in the movies. Like, you can really tell in each of their performances how much these characters mean to them. They both said that it was their dream to play these characters one day, and here they are, and they're both clearly giving it their all. Elphaba, once again, is a really complex, tragic character. You go back to the events of Wicked and how she never really had a lot of people on her side. She was ridiculed by her classmates, kind of disowned by her family, unwanted by everyone. And then she finally made this one real friend in Glinda and ultimately was able to get a hold of these magical abilities that she had. Unfortunately, though, it led her to strain away from what the people of Oz, who are in charge of it, want. So as a result, she's pursuing her mission of trying to save the animals. She's trying to set the people of Oz onto the real path, showing them like, no, the wizard is full of shit. He has no real power. I'm not the enemy, he's the enemy. While everyone in Oz fears her, has lost respect for her, and just believes that she's what needs to be brought down. We saw glimpses of the tragedy that is the character of Elphaba in the first Wicked. You see a lot more of it here. That's credit to Cynthia Erivo. But yeah, Ariana Grande has been probably the bigger talk of this movie, and I will say this much. For me, I think Cynthia Erivo was the bigger star of part 1. For me, I would give that to Ariana Grande here. She's been getting some Oscar buzz, and frankly, I'm not against the idea of her winning an Oscar, because her role of Glinda in this half of the story is a little bit different from what we got in the first half. In the first half, she's kind of, the ditzy, arrogant, super popular girl, used to getting her way, and she's meant for being more comic relief in the first one. That's kind of how I took her for. In this one, she once again has her comedic moments. She once again has moments of her being silly and ditzy or whatever, but she also has a much bigger burden on her in the sense that the wizard has chosen her to be the new face of Oz, the new public figure that people need to look for hope. And because of that, she's in a really tough spot because she has to tell the people of Oz, yes, everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna bring down the Wicked Witch. She is evil. She needs to be stopped. But she also knows behind closed doors, Elphaba has a point in doing what she wants to do, and she still sees Elphaba as a friend. So as a result, Ariana Grande has to balance all the really difficult emotions and feelings that Glinda is going through, and she absolutely crushed it at that. There are more than a few moments where she's really gonna sell how emotional and overwhelming something is for Glinda in a certain moment. I completely buy it, and I felt it. And when it comes to the scene in this movie, once again, the two leads in particular, they absolutely kill it here. And that's where I will continue to give these Wicked movies props, is casting lead actresses who could actually sing. I mean, once again, they do give some musical numbers to some of the people who aren't quite as good singers, but primarily the ones who can actually sing are the ones who get the majority of the numbers. I will say this though, the musical numbers that are in this one, I didn't think they were as memorable or as good as they were in the first one. Not to say they weren't good necessarily, but, there's no Defying Gravity in this one. There's not even a Popular in this one. Like, For Good was marketed as what was supposed to be, Glinda's whole Defying Gravity moment in Wicked. For me, I didn't feel that way. I thought Popular was more that. So all the musical numbers here were good. They weren't as epic or satisfying as the ones in part 1 were for me. And yeah, once again, the World of Oz itself, visually, it looks great. The sets are magnificent. You feel like you're there. It sucks you into the world. That's awesome. Another thing I will say about this movie, though, is it does a lot more to try to tie in to The Wizard of Oz, the movie. Like, in this one, we see a lot more of Dorothy. Not that she's like a focal point in the story, like, we never see the actress who plays her. She doesn't really ever say anything. We know she's there. We see her in moments. Like certain moments where we watch it, just like, oh, okay, so that's the part where she does this, and then that's the part where this happens to her. Oh, and this is the part where Dorothy comes here. So essentially, Wicked for Good is serving as a bridge of like what was also going on at the time during The Wizard of Oz, the movie. And with there's a lot of give and take for me. For starters, what's nice about that is the movie does hone into a lot of the nostalgia, and it provides a lot more of an explanation to how certain events and certain characters came to be in The Wizard of Oz. As a result, it makes The Wizard of Oz feel a little bit more darker, which I like. It provides more explanation to how certain characters ended up being what they are. I thought that was really cool. It provided that level of clarity to an all-time classic movie. I always think that's great. Where it's also a little bit of a negative, though, is when you watch The Wizard of Oz, and you know how that movie unfolds, and you know how certain characters are in that movie, when certain situations are going on in Wicked for Good that are meant to tie right into moments that are happening directly in The Wizard of Oz, it doesn't feel tonally consistent between the two movies. Now, one could argue in a sense like that, The Wizard of Oz is meant to be a just retelling of the story of Wicked, where the Wicked Witch was portrayed as this most evil, terrible person, whereas in Wicked Part 2, it's like, no, it was more like this. That could be what the movie's going for, but at the same time, when there's situations like two characters are just talking, mostly respectfully, and then a big musical number happens, it's cool, but I'm sitting there, I'm just like, this is also a scene where so-and-so's trapped in a basement right now, afraid for their life, right? Or in another moment, a couple characters are talking and like discussing an event that just happened. It's like, wait a minute, in The Wizard of Oz, that was already established. And it went a very different route. Maybe it's all just more of a me thing, but I just couldn't help but compare and contrast events from Wicked Part 2 that were also in The Wizard of Oz that were meant to coincide and didn't really feel like they did. And for me, part of what I think they kind of wasted a little bit is, I mentioned that Elphaba is much more of a tragic character in this, but she never does become wicked. Like, she never truly falls to that dark side. She never truly falls to being evil. She never really truly falls to what we see the Wicked Witch being in The Wizard of Oz. And that for me was kind of a disappointment. I think it really would have been good for the movie and for the story really to just see this tragic character who lived a really rough life forever just finally just give into it all. I mean, there is a moment in the movie where she kind of says like, all right, they want to call me wicked, I'm just gonna be that. I mean, you say that, but you never really turned that way for me. And yeah, you could say it's just following the play, that's the direction that they took, but you know, if the play went that route and never truly made her go fully evil, well, then that's a problem I have with the play too. I think it just would have worked better. It would have been a little darker, would have been a little more tragic, but I think it would have been great. And yes, I will also say this right now, because many people have also agreed with this. This probably did not need to be a two-part movie. I watched the first Wicked the night before I went to see Wicked for Good, and there are times I'm watching Wicked, I'm just like, that didn't need to be in there. That musical number didn't need to be in there. You could have taken out pretty much most of that storyline. And that in turn, maybe look at Wicked for Good, it's like, you could have taken that out, we didn't need that, you could have just, you know, done something different with that. And yes, as a result, you probably would have had to get rid of some musical numbers, you probably would have had to make some characters take more of a back seat, but I think in the end, you would have gotten a much more balanced film adaptation of Wicked. You probably could have made a 2-hour, 45-minute version of Wicked as one singular movie that would have been really good. And instead, you have two over 2.5-hour movies that just both feel a little bit drawn out. Like, could have had this very balanced, contained Wicked movie that shows the rise of Glinda and the fall of Elphaba into being the Wicked Witch, and then you could have rolled right into The Wizard of Oz, and you had this little two-movie arc of Oz, that would be great. Instead, with two parts, it does feel a little bit drawn out. It does feel like the movie did this not necessarily to tell a full story, but to milk a little bit more money out of this. So all in all, Wicked for Good was a solid follow-up. The two leads, once again, absolutely crush it here. Ariana Grande, she very well could win the Oscar, and I'm not against that idea at all. I thought she was fantastic here. The musical numbers in here are good. There are people in here who can really fucking sing. The musical numbers aren't as great as the first one, but still enjoyable. The Land of Oz is once again awesome. It channels into more of the nostalgia and provides more of a connection to The Wizard of Oz, the movie, which I thought was cool. There were some contradictions, though, to certain tonal moments between this and The Wizard of Oz, which took me out of it a bit. And it is the second part of a movie adaptation that didn't need to be two parts, so certain things feel drawn out, feel unnecessary. In the end, it's like this. If you really enjoyed the first Wicked, you will probably enjoy Wicked for Good. If the first Wicked wasn't your thing, this one's probably not going to win you over. So for me, I'm still going to give Wicked for Good a 7 out of 10, which makes it one worth checking out in theaters.
All right, come on, hurry up, Brian. I don't want to miss the movie trivia slides before the movie.
So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to make comments, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.